In a heated battle, Chowder and Flapjack faced off against each other. Both competitors were determined to come out on top, and gave it their all. The battle was intense, with each contestant using their unique skills and techniques to gain an advantage. In the end, only one emerged victorious, but both Chowder and Flapjack should be commended for their valiant efforts. Chowder engaged in a battle with Flapjack and emerged victorious. However, Flapjack took Chowder to a nearby forest and fed him a poisoned truffle. Flapjack was found by the police and sentenced to 20 years in gaol. Meanwhile, in the forest, nocturnal animals consumed Chowder's body. Additionally, one animal ate all the poisoned truffles and subsequently died. Chapter 2 begins with Mandy sitting at home. She then proceeds to kidnap the kids next door without anyone knowing and takes them to a forest. In the forest, she stabs them until they die while maniacally laughing, one by one. After that, she shoots animals with rifle, causing them to die. A hurricane struck the coast of Sea and City, resulting in the deaths of Billy and Irwin. Mandy, however, managed to escape to California. She began building her own empire by taking control of the coast of California. From there, she expanded her territory, taking North California and eventually invading Oregon. Mandy's invasion of California has continued and she has now successfully invaded Oregon. Currently, Mandy is also invading Idaho and Washington. Unfortunately, Boise has been bombed by Mandy. The invasion of California is ongoing, with Sacramento being the last part of the state to be taken. Mandy has declared full war on Montana and has started bombing Missoula. U.S. troops are currently heading to the western part of the USA. The invasions of Washington and Idaho have already been completed. Mandy successfully reached Wolf Point despite Canadian troops attempting to stop her. She proceeded to finish up the invasion of Montana and continued on to invade South and Southwest Canada. Mandy successfully invaded Saskatchewan, but encountered resistance from the Canadian military, resulting in a large fight. Despite this, Mandy emerged victorious and continued on towards Alberta. Canada was unsure of how to respond, prompting other North American countries to assist. However, Mandy, in her robot, launched missiles towards Mexico City. The invasion of Edmonton by Mandy sparked a fierce battle between her and two air forces from different countries. Despite their efforts, the air forces proved to be too weak to stop Mandy's advance. In the end, Mandy emerged as the victor and successfully wrapped up the invasion of Alberta. She then proceeded to move on to British Columbia, leaving behind a trail of destruction and chaos. The incident serves as a testament to the power and strength of a determined invader, and highlights the need for nations to work together to ensure their collective security in the face of such threats. Panini was devastated when she heard about Chowder's death. She decided to move far away from the place where they had shared so many memories together, so she packed her bags and headed to California. However, when she arrived, she found herself in the middle of Mandy's empire. Panini was initially scared and didn't know what to do, but she soon realized that she had to be strong and adapt to her new surroundings. She started working for Mandy and quickly rose through the ranks, becoming one of Mandy's most trusted advisors. Despite the challenges she faced, Panini never forgot about Chowder and continued to hold on to the memories they shared. After Panini arrived in Mandy's empire, she realized that it was not the life she had imagined. She tried to escape hard labor, but unfortunately, she was caught by Mandy's guards. Mandy was furious with Panini for trying to escape and decided to make an example out of her. She was put on trial and found guilty of her crimes. As a punishment, Mandy sentenced her to death row. Panini was devastated but remained hopeful that she could somehow escape her fate. She spent her days in prison reflecting on her past and the choices she had made. Despite her situation, Panini never gave up hope and continued to fight for her freedom. Days turned into months, and months turned into years. Panini spent a long time on death row, but eventually, something extraordinary happened. A group of activists, working against Mandy's empire, managed to secure Panini's freedom. She was finally released from prison and was able to start a new life. Free from the tyranny of Mandy's empire, after Panini's escape, Mandy was determined to find her and bring her back to prison to finish her sentence. She searched high and low, using all the resources at her disposal, to locate Panini. Finally, after many weeks of searching, she received a tip that Panini was hiding out in a small town in Nevada. Mandy immediately set out to Nevada with a team of her best guards. However, she faced a setback when she discovered that her robot, which she was heavily reliant on, was out of gas. This meant that she would have to continue her search on foot, which would take much longer and be more difficult. Despite the setback, Mandy was determined to find Panini and bring her to justice. She and her team combed through the town, searching every street and alleyway. They spoke to locals and asked for information, but no one seemed to know where Panini was hiding. Days turned into weeks, and Mandy's frustration grew. She began to worry that Panini had escaped once again or that someone had helped her to evade capture. However, Mandy refused to give up. She continued to search tirelessly, determined to complete her mission and bring Panini back to prison to finish her sentence. Mandy had been looking for Panini, but just when it seemed there was no hope, Schnitzel came to the rescue. Mandy tried to shoot Panini, but at the last second, Schnitzel jumped in the way and sacrificed himself so that Panini would be safe. His brave and selfless act was a reminder of the bond shared between the two of them, and of the power of friendship. Mandy knew that her mistake could have serious repercussions. She had thought she was shooting Schnitzel but had instead taken the life of her friend, Panini. She was horrified, and time had seemingly stopped while she absorbed the enormity of what had just happened. In a state of shock, she tended to Panini, dressing her in a straitjacket and carrying her to the maximum security prison where her body would be found. It was a dark and difficult journey, but Mandy knew that she had to do what was right. She was filled with guilt and sadness, but also an immense sense of responsibility. She knew that she had made a terrible mistake, and that it was up to her to correct it. Only she could make sure that Panini's death was not in vain. Mandy was determined to ensure that justice was served for her friend, and she dedicated herself to finding the truth and setting things right. Though it was a tough journey, she was determined to do whatever it took to make sure that Panini's death wasn't just a senseless tragedy. The atmosphere in Sin City was somber as everyone gathered to mourn the loss of Chowder at his funeral. Flapjack was also in attendance, despite his recent troubles with the law. The police took the opportunity to speak with him, urging him to reflect on his actions and the consequences they had brought about. As the funeral proceeded, the melancholic tune of the Chowder theme song filled the air, heightening the solemnity of the moment. However, Flapjack's reaction was unexpected. In a moment of apparent disregard for the gravity of the situation, Flapjack began dancing to the sad and depressing tune. This display of insensitivity did not go unnoticed by the police, who promptly doubled his sentence to 40 years. Flapjack's failure to consider the consequences of his actions, even in the midst of a solemn occasion, demonstrated a lack of remorse and responsibility that could not be ignored. The incident served as a powerful reminder that actions have consequences, and that individuals must be mindful of their behavior at all times. While it is natural to feel a range of emotions in response to various situations, it is important to remember the impact that our actions can have on others and to act accordingly. The funeral continued in a somber fashion, with Flapjack remaining in jail for another 20 years. The news of the deaths of the kids next door, Billy and Derwin, had been sent out, causing widespread grief and sadness throughout Sin City. The theme songs of both Kids Next Door and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy played, but in a sad and depressing version, adding to the already heavy atmosphere. As the funeral came to an end and everyone left, Grim was left feeling lost and alone. He knew that he needed to find Mandy, his closest friend and confidant, to help him cope with the loss of Billy and the others. As Grim searched for Mandy in Sin City, he soon realized that she was nowhere to be found. His heart sank as he came to the realization that she had left the city and gone to California, perhaps to seek solace on a fresh start. Feeling lost and alone without his closest friend to turn to, Grimm wandered the streets of CN City, his mind consumed with memories of the good times he had shared with Mandy, Billy, and the others. He couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had taken hold of him since their passing. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. But Grimm remained in CN City, unable to bring himself to leave the place that held so many memories of his friends. He visited their old haunts, hoping to feel their presence and find some comfort in his familiar surroundings. Eventually, Grimm began to come to terms with his loss and started to focus on the future. He knew that he couldn't bring back his friends, but he could honor their memory by living his life to the fullest and making the most of every moment. With a heavy heart, Grimm said goodbye to CN City and set out on a new journey, determined to make the most of his time and to remember the cherished memories of his friends always. Grimm was surprised to learn that Mandy had her own empire and was no longer in California. He wondered how this could have happened, and what Mandy's empire could possibly be. Determined to find out more, Grimm headed to California in search of answers. As he wandered through the busy streets, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him. He had always known Mandy to be a strong and independent person, but the idea of her having her own empire seemed almost too far-fetched to be true. After asking around and doing some research, Grimm finally discovered the truth. Mandy had been secretly building her own empire for years, using her cunning and intelligence to amass a vast fortune and an army of loyal followers. Her empire spanned multiple industries and continents, and she was widely regarded as one of the most powerful and influential figures in the world. As he learned more about Mandy's empire, Grimm couldn't help but feel a mix of admiration and concern. On the one hand, he was proud of his friend for achieving such incredible success. On the other hand, he worried about the toll that this kind of power and responsibility could take on a person. Determined to help his friend in any way he could, Grimm set out to find Mandy and offer his support. He knew that he might not be able to fully understand the complexities of her empire and the challenges she faced, but he was willing to do whatever it took to be there for her as a friend and ally. Grimm found himself on the coast of Mandy's empire when he noticed battleships heading towards Vancouver Island. He decided to follow them in order to locate Mandy and prevent her from expanding her territory too much. When Grimm and the battleships arrived at Vancouver Island, they found Victoria under attack by Mandy. The Caribbean Air Force and Greenland Air Force joined the battle against Mandy, but were ultimately defeated. The battleships were also destroyed and Grimm was flicked by Mandy during their confrontation. The invasion of British Columbia was successfully ended, and Mandy's forces moved on to invade the Yukon territories. Emmy and Yumi went camping in CN City at night. As they were about to fall asleep, they heard the Chowder theme song playing in the forest. This made them scared. Another theme song played, this time it was the codename, Kids Next Door theme song. They heard laughing from Chowder and the kids next door. Emmy and Yumi were getting more scared. Suddenly, something bad happened and they screamed, their voices echoing through the forest. The forest was closed the next morning due to reported paranormal activity. 2 hanging bodies were found near it that, leading officials to believe that the ghost haunting the forest was responsible. Upon arriving in Yellowknife, Mandy engaged in a battle with what appeared to be the Russian military. She was successful in destroying 5% of their forces before continuing on to finish invading the Yukon territories. Flapjack escaped from jail and swam to Guatemala, where he boarded a plane to Ontario. However, the plane crashed into Mandy's empire during a stopover in Las Vegas. As a result, everyone except Flapjack had to do hard labor. Flapjack had a conversation with Mandy on TV and ultimately agreed to do harbor, in a frantic attempt to bring Chowder back to life after a mishap in the kitchen. Dexter, the young genius with the secret laboratory, initiates a complex resurrection experiment involving a mixture of rare chemicals and advanced technology. However, during the process, a critical error occurs when Dexter miscalculates the dosage of a volatile reagent, resulting in an unexpected reaction. Instead of restoring Chowder to his original state, The experiment goes awry, transforming him into a lumbering zombie with a penchant for mindless munching. As Dexter grapples with the consequences of his mistake, he must now find a way to reverse the transformation before Chowder's insatiable appetite leads to chaos in the lab. In a frantic attempt to reverse the effects of a zombie formula he inadvertently created, Dexter found himself in a precarious situation when Chowder, driven by a sudden surge of aggression, bit him. The transformation was immediate. Dexter succumbed to the virus, becoming a zombie himself. In his new, mindless state, he instinctively sought out his sister Dee, biting her and transmitting the infection. The chaos didn't stop there, as Dexter, now fully immersed in his zombie persona, turned on his parents, ensuring that the contagion spread through his family, plunging their household into a nightmarish scenario of undead mayhem. In a chaotic turn of events, the five zombies, Chowder, Dexter, Dee, Dexter's mom, and Dexter's dad, launch a rampage through CN City, spreading terror as they bite anyone who crosses their path. The once vibrant streets are filled with panic as citizens flee in every direction, desperately trying to escape the undead onslaught. In response to the escalating threat, the mayor of CN City issues an urgent evacuation order for the small island, urging residents to seek safety and abandon their homes in the face of the relentless zombie horde. In CN City, a sudden outbreak of zombies caused widespread panic as residents fled for their lives. Most managed to escape the chaos, but 3 individuals were left behind: Mungdal, known for his resourcefulness, Mandrake, a brilliant but often arrogant scientist, and Double D, the intelligent and cautious inventor. As the zombies closed in, the trio found themselves trapped in an abandoned building, forced to confront their fears and devise a plan for survival amidst the growing threat. In the aftermath of a zombie apocalypse in CN City, Mungdal, Mandrake, and Double D had band together to fend off the undead hordes, utilizing their unique skills and resourcefulness. Meanwhile, a desperate escape boat attempting to flee the chaos collides with a cargo ship belonging to Mandy's empire, leading to a precarious situation. On board the cargo ship, Mac and Samurai Jack confront the notorious Flapjack, who is under suspicion for the murder of Chowder, intensifying the tension as alliances shift and survival becomes paramount. As the escape boat departed from CN City, chaos erupted when Truffles, who had been bitten just 15 minutes prior, transformed into a zombie and began attacking fellow passengers. In a matter of moments, she infected everyone on board, leading to a rapid descent into panic and violence. Amid the turmoil, only one individual, Laszlo, managed to survive the ordeal, navigating the chaos and ultimately escaping the fate that befell the others. The zombie boat, a grotesque vessel now teeming with undead, crashes onto the shores of Los Angeles, the capital of Mandy's empire. As chaos unfolds, zombie Truffles takes to the skies, soaring towards the Capitol building and instilling panic among the citizens. Meanwhile, zombie Cheese roams the streets, aggressively biting unsuspecting individuals, spreading fear and infection. In the heart of the city, zombie Edward the Platypus targets those engaged in hard labor, his bites exacerbating the turmoil and contributing to the growing crisis as the undead wreak havoc across the once thriving metropolis. In a shocking turn of events, zombie Truffles infiltrated the Capitol building of Mandy's empire and successfully bit President Mandy, leading to her immediate transformation into a zombie. This unprecedented incident raises grave concerns for global security, as Mandy's leadership was pivotal in maintaining stability and order. The potential for a widespread zombie outbreak now looms large, threatening not only the integrity of Mandy's empire but also the safety of nations worldwide, as the virus could spread rapidly through her administration and beyond. Immediate action is required to contain the situation and prevent a global catastrophe. Flapjack was apprehended on a cargo ship and subsequently turned over to the Honolulu Police Department by Mac and Samurai Jack. This incident follows a grave event from the previous week, where Flapjack was involved in the death of Chowder. The authorities are now investigating the circumstances surrounding both the murder and Flapjack's capture, as they seek to understand the motives behind these violent actions. 3 days after his latest incarceration, Flapjack managed to escape from jail once more, utilizing a stolen speedboat to navigate the waters toward Los Angeles. Unbeknownst to him, the city was in the grip of a zombie outbreak, with reports of the undead roaming the streets and wreaking havoc on the unsuspecting populace. As he sped along the coastline, Flapjack remained blissfully unaware of the chaos awaiting him, focused solely on his newfound freedom and the thrill of the open sea. Upon arriving in Los Angeles, Flapjack was met unexpectedly by zombie Edward the Platypus, a grotesque version of his former friend. Realizing the danger, Flapjack quickly hopped into his speedboat, revving the engine as the undead platypus plunged into the water, propelling himself with surprising agility. The chase ensued, with Flapjack expertly maneuvering through the harbor, while zombie Edward relentlessly pursued him, creating splashes and waves in his wake. Flapjack set off for Oregon in a speedboat, navigating the waters with excitement until he spotted a police search helicopter overhead, its rotor blades whirring ominously. Realizing he needed to evade capture, he steered the boat towards the shoreline and dashed into the dense forest. There, he stumbled upon a bear cave, a risky refuge. Undeterred, Flapjack confronted the bears inside, using his agility and cleverness to outmaneuver them, ultimately asserting dominance and claiming the cave as his hideout, secure from the prying eyes of the helicopter above. After 5 days of living in the cave, Flapjack had adapted to the environment, learning to scavenge for food while remaining vigilant against the sound of police helicopters overhead. One night, as he rummaged through his meager supplies, a moose unexpectedly charged into the cave, its massive frame silhouetted against the dim light. Flapjack barely had time to react as the animal, startled and aggressive, knocked over his makeshift camp and forced him to scramble for safety, highlighting the unpredictable dangers of his new life in the wild. After the moose attack 2 hours ago, Flapjack snuck into the nearest hospital and got some bandages. He managed to get them without getting caught. The next morning, people were confused over the absence of a few bandages at their hospital. Flapjack was healed from the moose attack after stealing some bandages. When Flapjack went outside of the cave, a wildfire emerged from someone leaving a cigarette on the forest floor. Flapjack escaped from the forest and left everything behind to save his life. Flapjack needed to look somewhere else to hide from the cop. Flapjack made it out of the fire. 2 days later, Flapjack was caught by the police at an alleyway in Bandon, Oregon. Flapjack was accused of starting the wildfire, so he was sent to jail for 10 years. They later found out Flapjack wasn't responsible, but Gazpacho was to get revenge on Flapjack for killing Chowder a month ago. Flapjack was sent to community service. In response to the escalating zombie invasion, the U.S. government has authorized a military strike on Los Angeles, deploying aerial bombardments aimed at eradicating the growing horde of undead. This decision follows reports of widespread chaos and civilian casualties as the infection spreads rapidly through the city. Military officials have stated that the operation is necessary to contain the outbreak and prevent further spread to neighboring regions. Evacuations were conducted prior to the strikes, and the government has urged citizens to remain indoors and follow emergency protocols as the situation develops. Gazpacho was sent to jail for causing the forest fire. Gazpacho was forced to do community service for twice as long as Flapjack's. Gazpacho and Flapjack got into a fight while doing community service. This caused the two to be split and put into different areas to clean. Mungdal, Double D, and Mandrake have eradicated all the zombies in CN City. The three try rebuilding the town. Mandarin tries to revive the K&D saw no villains destroy the town. Mandarin doesn't everything right, unlike his arch-nemesis Dexter. Number 1 thanks Mandrake for reviving Sector V. With Mandy dead, the US and Canada take back their land. Supporters of Mandy's empire fight back against the US and Canada. The fight is intense, but Canada takes back Northwest Territories and the US takes back Montana. Everyone in Mandy's empire celebrate because they are going to be liberated. The K&D helped the US and Canada gain back their land. The K&D, the US, and Canada destroy labor camps across Mandy's empire. Each K&D member helped a certain part of the empire get liberated. Number 1 took care of Yukon Territory, number 2 with British Columbia, number 3 with Washington, number 4 with Oregon, and number 5 with California. After all the zombies were eradicated, people came back to Sian City. Everyone except for Mandy was revived because they don't want Mandy to start World War III. Flapjack had to apologize to Chowder and group. Gazpacho's mother was very angry because Gazpacho caused a forest fire. The US and Canada got back Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Idaho back. The K&D continued to eradicate Mandy's empire. The empire was on its last legs. The K&D decided to cut off sea access to Mandy's empire. Number 5 split Mandy's empire from Southern California. Mandy's empire was cut off from sea. The empire was now split into 3 instead of 2. The rebels refused to surrender. The capital was moved to Prince George, British Columbia. More labor camps were shut down by the dozen as the K&D invaded Mandy's empire. After a week, Mandy's empire surrendered. The K&D occupied it all and gave it to the US and Canada. Mandy became banned in North America and Europe. Grim and Billy were fined $1 million because of Mandy. Dexter was fined $500,000 for causing the zombie invasion. To pay the fine, Dexter's parents had to sell their house. Dexter was in huge trouble. They had to stay with Mandrake so they have somewhere to live. Dexter was locked in with Mandrake for 1 week as a punishment. Billy's mom had to sell their house as well. Billy and Grim were very furious with Mandy and hated her too.